Archangels, ghosts, and Bigfoot. Oh my. It's just another night for Supernatural Girls. Real stories, real answers to life's biggest supernatural mysteries. And now for another exciting interview with paranormal experts from this world and others. Here's your host, paranormal researcher Patricia Baker, on the one, the only Supernatural Girls.
Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of Supernatural Girls. I'm your host, Patricia Baker, and I'm here with my co-host, PK. How you doing tonight?
Absolutely fabulous. We had a lot of rain yesterday, and the sun's out today. Little nippy, but it feels great.
Ah, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what we're up for. We are up for rain, snow, ice. Cancel everything for tomorrow because I'll probably never get out of here.
I feel sorry for you, sweetheart. But then you think about that when we get this real intense heat over the summer.
That's right. That's right.
Lord giveth and Lord taketh away, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. I was taking a look at some things today. Remember, Mercury retrograde started today. Yesterday, actually. And we will have the retrograde until the 25th.
That's way too long.
Oh, definitely. 3 times a year, but 3.5 weeks each time. But Mercury retrograde, with the conscious, logical mind that we have, experiences as well as miscommunications are going to take place. So the do's and don'ts for this cycle, to your best advantage. Don't sign contracts. Begin anything new right now, because decisions aren't going to really pan out like you think they should. If you've got car repairs or anything like that, don't do it, because it's all going to get misinterpreted by the universe. It's going to do it its own way. But do take some quiet time. Let yourself slow down a little bit. Take a break from accomplishments. But it's a great time to write in a journal, meditate, a lot of reflection, and do work on and bring projects to completion. Perfect time to do that. So if you take time to listen and connect with others, slow down your speech. If you don't feel the other person has understood what you've said, repeat it. Check your calendar also so that you don't miss important appointments that are going to be going on. Everyone gets stressed out during the retrograde because nothing feels normal. Missing communication. What we think we hear is not necessarily what we're hearing. So take it easy, be safe. Do not sign any contracts of any sort or any paperwork, because you'll end up regretting it after the retrograde is over. Just a thought to keep quiet to the self a little bit. Good time to redo and review.
I'm all for it. It's a good thing to do.
I'm going to be doing a lot of it. Start first thing in the morning. I'll review. Did I get out of bed? I did.
Check.
It's catch as catch can. That's all there is to it.
Exactly. Oh, my goodness. Well, we've got a fabulous guest tonight. Oh my gosh.
We certainly do.
I'm going to read just some of his bio, because otherwise I'll be here all night just reading his bio. He's quite a guest. His name is Earl Gray Anderson, and he is MUFON State Director of Southern California. He is a STAR team member and an executive member of MUFON's ERT. That's the Experiencer Resource Team. Earl has hosted MUFON's Experiencer workshops at the last 2 MUFON Symposium, and he will be hosting 3 different events at the 2024 MUFON Symposium in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. Now, Earl has personally investigated over 1,000 UFO reports and specializes in experiencer high strangeness cases. He has appeared on multiple radio shows, podcasts, TV shows, the Travel Channel's Storming Area 51 special, the season finale of Motor Trend, television's Motor Mythbusters, Cars versus UFOs, and is a featured host on the new TV series, The Alien Disclosure Files, which is available on Amazon Plus. So I'm going to stop there. Like I said, this guy has so much going on.
Uh-huh.
I'd rather hear from him himself. So let's get him on here, right?
Great.
Welcome, Earl. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for having me. How are you guys doing? You got
Great.
snow and rain. I'm here, well, Southern California, so we had rain for a few days, but
Yeah.
we're back to the usual boring sunshine.
We
But
got
it's
some
a
rain
lie. That
yesterday.
the song "It Never Rains in Southern California." That's not true.
It's a lie?
We had
Oh.
a nice downpour for a couple days here. So,
Oh, goodness. Well, again, many thanks for joining us. We're thrilled to have you here.
Definitely.
And you've got one of the most interesting histories we have ever heard. So, as we were talking off the air, your mom,
Mm-hmm.
she was underground. And that's why I called it Underground tonight, because that's where we're going, everybody. We are going underground. We are going to hear about things
apropos.
that we don't usually get to hear about. And as you know, we like to be on the leading edge with everything and things that people don't know about. So please tell us about your incredible mother.
Sure, my pleasure. It's probably my mom's fault that I'm a ufologist. I don't know if she'd be thrilled about that or horrified, but I'll tell you a little bit about her. Her name was Betty Grace Maiden. Here's a picture of her,
Lovely lady.
right there,
Get her.
and
Beautiful.
she's a beautiful woman, very, very intelligent, very, very smart. She grew up in Muscatine, Iowa, and she told about something that happened when she was 16 years old. She called it her ball lightning incident, but it wasn't ball lightning, and I'll explain why. But she and her sister were sleeping on the screened-in porch that they had. It's very humid in Iowa. I've been there. I've been there that time of year, and yes, it's Florida plus. So they'd sleep outside, because it was just cooler, but it was screened in. A lot of homes still have that same setup, and they'd make a couple of sleeping bags, So anyhow, my aunt Mary, my mom's younger sister, she was about I think maybe 10 or 11 at that point. She was already asleep. She was snoozing. And my mom was getting ready to go to sleep, but she was still sitting up. She had her little bedroll set up, and she heard this buzzing sound. Like she said, it sounded like a hive of angry bees. So she's looking over, this side of her sleeping roll, where the screen was. And she said that there was a ball of sparks. It was about the size of a beach ball. And she said that this thing came right through the screen, that it pushed its way through. She said it was louder when it was pushing through, almost like it was agitated or something, like a living being or something. And it came into the enclosed porch that they had. It moved over her sister and was hanging over her sister, almost as though it were watching her sleep. And my mom was just sitting there dumbfounded. When, what is it that I'm seeing? Came over to her, and it was about a foot away from her face. She said that if it had eyes, it would have been eye level to her. And it just sat there in front of her. And my mom's looking at this thing, it's inexplicable. What is this? After a few seconds, it goes back, it pushes its way back through the screen, and it starts traveling across their yard into the neighbor's yard. Neighbors had a cornfield there. So my mom got up, she, gathered her, robe around herself. She ran out the door of the porch, and she followed this thing. She said that it just was kind of traveling almost the speed of somebody walking. So she followed it into the cornfield until she was right directly below it. It was about 30 feet up in the air. And she said that she stood and just stood there looking up at it, and it suddenly popped like a soap bubble, and you could smell electricity in the air. Now she said, she talked about this at different family functions. I mean, it wasn't like, I don't think my mom thought that this was involved with what happened later on in her life, but I do. I've spoken with, in particular, Dr. Irena Scott, who kind of specializes in electrical phenomena. She said, ball lightning. That's not ball lightning. Ball lightning will last 2 to 3, maybe 5 seconds max. It's certainly not under intelligent control, and it sounds like whatever this was, it had, an intention to it. And so I believe that my mom had contact with our visitors at a very young age. She went into law enforcement when she became about 18 years old. Because they needed somebody to watch the Muscatine, Iowa drunk tank on weekends. And they liked my mom, I guess. They had to deputize her. I'm not, was she 18? She might have been 21. I'm not sure. She was very young. I mean, it was unheard of to deputize a woman in the first place. And she was young, but, for some reason she got this job. And I think that this opened up her employment that she had during the 1950s up until when I was born. She moved to Los Angeles, and somehow or another she started working. She got a job with Hughes Aircraft, and she wound up becoming one of Howard Hughes's personal secretaries. Now she worked for Howard Hughes from, I believe it was around 1953 until 1958 when I was born. Now our family all knew this too. That this wasn't a big secret, She and Mr. Hughes would communicate over an intercom system, even though my mom had the office next to his office. She said that she had only seen him in person one time the whole time she worked there. If you've watched the film The Aviator, it was quite correct about Hughes becoming a germaphobe, and he didn't care for people very much. He was kind of a misanthrope. So he would actually send my mom out to do his dealings, to meet clients and stuff like that. So 1965, I was 5 years old, or 1963, I was 5 years old, started kindergarten. I have a very good memory, thank God. I remember sitting down for breakfast, and my mom started talking to me like I was a grown-up, like I was another adult. And looking back at it, I think that her past was weighing on her. She wasn't very happy being a stay-at-home housewife like you would be in the early 1960s. My mom was sort of the original emancipated woman. She, was a kind of women's lib where there was such a thing as women's lib. She liked to run things. She was used to having an exciting life. She worked for Howard Hughes, after all.
Right.
Anyhow, I sat down to breakfast, and Mom starts talking. She said, "Son, you know that I used to work for Hughes, and all that. Her best friend was still the person she met when she was working for Howard Hughes. We called her Aunt Ellen, and they would sometimes do shop talk when Ellen would come out and visit. But she said, what you don't know is that I had a really, really strange job." And she talked about how they sent her out to the middle of nowhere. They didn't tell her where she was going to go. And she didn't really give me details. I'm guessing that they must have flown her out somewhere. Area 51, White Sands, I don't know. I've learned about some of these facilities since. It could have been either place or something I don't know about.
The name of it? She didn't give you the coordinates of where she was going?
No. She said that they took me out to the middle of nowhere. She said it was the desert, son, and there was nothing there except for this shack. She said it was a concrete bunker. It looked like you could park a tractor in there or something, and she was confused. It's like, why take me out to the middle of nowhere to look at tools, or what could possibly be in there? So that she had a little security team, 2 guys, and they unlocked this thing. It was locked and secured very, very well. They opened the door, and there was only one thing in this building, was an elevator. So she said that she got into the elevator. There was no upstairs for it to go to. So she knew it was going down, but she figured maybe a floor or two. And she was still confused, though. We're talking, 1953. So she said that the elevator started moving and it was going really, really fast. She said that it scared her because she felt vertigo. She felt butterflies in her stomach, the exact words she used. I remember.
Yeah.
She said that when it finally stopped, the doors opened up and there was a bustling city under the desert floor. She said that there were lots of German rocket scientists that were working there. And apparently Howard Hughes had a lab there. Now, I found out through one gentleman, Richard Souter, who's written a few books on underground bases, that Hughes actually had the first private lab at Area 51, and it was an underground facility. It didn't say it was a mile down, but I kind of wonder, well, maybe that was, it was the right time frame. I think they opened the lab in 1952. This was around 1953 that my mom went there. Apparently she spent some time there. She said that they had cafes, they had a movie theater. She said there was a barber shop, but the barber could actually perm her hair for her. And later on, I'd think about that. It's like, well, you wouldn't wait until you're going to work, under the desert to have your hair permed. So she must have been there for a while, She never said what they were working on, but she did mention Werner von Braun was a colleague. He would sometimes come on the Disney, Wonderful World of Disney. And she would go, that's my friend Werner, So I know. And apparently Werner had an early place, not only in the Apollo moon program, in the Redstone program, which my mom apparently was a part of as well. But he was also somebody who knew about the UFO phenomenon. So after my mom told me all this, it was almost time for me to go to kindergarten. She said, "Oh, son, so, you're so interested in outer space." And I was. It was like this interest was born in me. She said, "So I just want you to know that UFOs are real and we're not alone in the universe." She said, the government already knows this. So the government knows this, but they're never going to tell people about it.
That's for sure.
Yeah, I know. Now off to school, son, off to school with you, and I, went to school, and the little kids, you'll hear something, what if you were, say, Neil Armstrong's kid, and your dad went to the moon? Well, it's your dad, right? So you don't really think about it. It just, that's what my dad did. And that was the way it was for me with my mom's story. I thought about it, but it wasn't like it made a connection. Like they don't talk about this out there. People don't know that we have cities. And she called it a little city under the desert. And that's the way that she referred to it. The other times that I talked with her, she said, well, the little city under the desert is, and I've heard other people refer to a little city under the desert in my UFO work. So anyhow, I forgot about it. I didn't forget about it, but it just didn't really come up. But about 10 years later, I was, or 5 years later, I guess it was, I was in fourth grade. I was 10 years old, and we had show and tell. And what do your parents do? It was mostly what does your dad do? Most of the moms were house moms, right?
Yeah.
So I went and I talked about my dad's landscaping business, and the kids were kind of yawning and not too excited. So I said, well, but let me tell you about my mom, and it wasn't like I had pre-planned it. I didn't even, it was just like, blah. And I told my mom's story in front of my teachers, all the kids. And yeah, the teacher was kind of just gobsmacked, dumbfounded, with her mouth dropped. Yeah. And the other kids started making fun of me, and I was the space boy, and you see any UFOs out there, Earl, and stuff like that, So the teacher, I think, became concerned. She called my mom in for a parent-teacher conference,
Oh,
and yes, and I didn't know I was in trouble. I thought, I was just playing in the monkey bars there at school. My mom got out of the conference, and she was real quiet, and I still hadn't figured out that it was about me talking in front of the classroom. I thought maybe one of my grades was bad, or I didn't know what it was about. So we're driving home, and my mom says, "Son, I'm not angry at you." It's like, uh-oh. And she's trying to drive and talk, right? She was visibly upset. And she looked at me and she said, "How did you remember that? You were just a baby. I'm not supposed to talk about that stuff, And she's trying to drive again, and she said, "Son, so I heard that you went and gave a little speech about UFOs and a city under the desert." And she said, "You can't ever talk about this." She said, "I could get into horrible, horrible trouble. How did you remember?" And she said, "I signed things, that, and I could get in trouble." And then she gets quiet, and then she looks at me and she said, "I could go to prison if you talk about it ever again." Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Hearing that.
So that's my origin story. I took her to see Star Wars, the movie, when it came out, and that got her talking again. Those were the two big flashpoints in my life. After Star Wars, she went on saying things like, "You have no idea how close to the truth this is, the different beings, the different craft. It's just like that." She said, "It's not a far-fetched film." And she talked more about some more specific stuff and some of it I forget. I mean, I was 17 years old, I think, when it came out. But I was old enough to ask. She said, "They're never, ever going to tell the public." And at this point, I said, "Well, why the hell not? Why not? It's an important question. It's one of those questions like, is there a God? What happens when you die? And are we alone in the universe?" The answer she gave me was, it sounded almost like she was reciting something that she was told to say. She said, "They're afraid of how people will react." She mentioned the War of the Worlds radio broadcast, how people had, barricaded themselves in their houses, and one guy threatened to kill himself and his family, and to not let the Martians get them. And she mentioned that it might harm world religions and finances. And she said, they're just never they will never tell the public. It's realer than you will ever know. Realer than you'll ever know.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, Earl, can I ask you a couple questions here? Because when you were describing this place out in the desert, and the only thing that was in this little building was an elevator, of course, I immediately got claustrophobic. And is there only one way into this place and one way out? I mean, what was it like?
There were no windows. It was a bunker. It was a bunker, like a concrete bunker. She said she later on described it more like a low-slung concrete bunker. And later on, I found out that while she was working in this little city under the desert, she was pregnant with me. She made a joke out of it. When I was in my 20s, I was trying to get more info out of her, and she was working as a headhunter for aerospace at that time. She was getting rocket scientists out to Rockwell Science Center and to Lockheed Skunk Works. She was in Burbank back then. And so she had pretty much, and I tried to get her to tell me more because I was just curious. And she said, "Well, you were down there. I'll tell you that." I said, "What do you mean I was down there?" She said, "You're in my tummy." She said, "I was pregnant with you."
Did she ever talk about?
Maybe that's what's wrong with me. I don't know.
What was right with you? Did she ever talk about aliens, alien bodies, ETs down there in this facility? So it was just who was down there?
She said a lot of rocket scientists and a lot of scientists working on esoteric projects, is how she described it. And she wouldn't give me any details, which drove me up the wall. But I do know that she was working for Skunk Works. She and this was later on in her life. She was a little older than I am right now. I'm 65, and she was still should be gone for a month and come back with sand and Saudi jewelry and headscarves in her, in her suitcase. And she told us, I have to leave. I've got a job through work, and so I'll be gone for a month. And she'd call every week. I'd have to go over to it was before cell phones, so I'd have to go to my parents' old house and wait for the phone call with my dad. And and it would be like the long distance sounding phone call like we used to hear back in those days. So she, I think that, she was very proud that she had kept her security clearances till the day she died. I mean, she talked a little bit more on her deathbed where she said, because she kept getting cancers. That's the other thing. I started doing some research even at that age when my mom was still with us. She died in 1999. But I'd learned that a lot of the people that had worked in underground facilities had come down with multiple cancers.
Oh,
I'm not
really?
sure if this is because they built downwind to the Trinity site or if it was, I'm not sure. Or maybe they were powering the facility with a early nuclear pile. I mean, you have to figure it must have been off the grid. A little city, is going to show up on your electric bill,
Oh, right.
But it was like her fifth or sixth bout with cancer. And this time it was, we knew that she wasn't going to survive. And I wanted her to sue the government. I was mad.
Yeah, right.
And there was a family at the time who had, I believe they had won a lawsuit because at Area 51, workers had been exposed to chemicals that had harmed their health. And I think that a few people even died from that exposure. And so she started talking again, and she said, I'm very proud of what I did, son. I would do it all over again. I was doing it for my country, and I would do it all over again. I knew that there were risks. What risk, But she said, I knew there were risks involved. But like a soldier, that this was my way of being an American, patriotic American. And she said, I would never, ever sue my government. I'm a proud American. I'd do it over again. And she was gone a week later. That was kind of our last conversation. We did talk about the underground base a little bit more because I had a friend who was a skeptic friend. He still is. Background in science and stuff. They don't like this stuff, And so I said, well, let's see, maybe mom will talk. Come here, And mom's like in her hospital bed in there. I said, Ken thinks I'm making up about the underground base. Will you tell him about it? And she pulled her glasses down and looked up at him, and she said, well, Earl's telling you the truth. How do you think we hide our secrets? How do you think we hide our national secrets, Ken?
Right.
You hide them underground. That's the only place where you can hide it. And is that all? She went back to, she was always writing in shorthand, the old secretarial lingo.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, she had a fascinating life, obviously. It's sad that she passed away from so many cancers. That's so horrible. But, one of the things we've heard from some of the guests on our show is that a lot of the experiencers have had autoimmune diseases. And that's being linked to the trauma of the experience that never gets quite released. So
I think that
finding that also
it's unintentional, maybe, but I think that perhaps, it is a thing. I mean, medical studies have been done on this. Blind studies have been done on this. We did a study with Edgar Mitchell's Free Group, the MUFON ERT did. And there does seem to be a recurrence of things like, multiple sclerosis and Huntington's disease. And, it seems like, neural and immune system type things. And, our visitors, I don't think that they're gods. They seem like it to us. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. I mean, Arthur C. Clarke, who invented the communication satellite and authored 2001: A Space Odyssey, those are his words. It looks like magic to us. But I think that that's imperfect. Any kind of technology is imperfect and has problems. They probably don't know what we're, resistant to and what we're sensitive to, but maybe that's also one of the reasons why you don't see a whole lot of experiencers and people literally hovered right over by a UFO. I don't think they're here to kill us. I think they do at least care enough about us that they wouldn't want to harm us intentionally. So perhaps that would explain why usually you'll see a UFO, 40, 50 feet away, and it's not like right next to you. But I don't know. But when my mom passed away, that was the end of my line of information. I mean, I'd try to get her to talk more. I heard the Bob Lazar story, and I tried to get her to talk about him. He sounded like one of the guys that she would get out to work with her headhunter work.
Yeah.
I said, have you heard of this guy, Bob Lazar? And she looked uncomfortable, and she looked up at me, and all she said, she made a joke out of it. She said, Bob Laser, that's not a name. And then she, back to doing what she was doing, right?
But she knew
but
how
there
to
was always that chance.
Yeah.
So when she was gone, I'd heard about MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, and they had that Hangar One show on in the, I guess, about around 2010 or so.
I remember that show.
And it's a very good show, and it really took the phenomenon seriously. It wasn't silly like a lot of the shows. It was scientifically based, but also open-minded, and that's how I'd explain myself. I try to stick as close to scientific methods as I can, but you have to be as open-minded as you possibly can, because it seems like magic. This other, intelligence that we seem to be, communicating with and having incursions of in our ICBM bases and such.
Right.
So I moved on. It was about 10 years ago, and I decided I would put my own hands to investigating this phenomenon, and it worked.
Investigated over 1,000 cases personally, and so we've got some questions for you about these cases. One question is, have you encountered anybody that's come back with real, tangible information that can be used?
Yeah, all the time.
Like,
I think that we see three things, and I'm very, very interested in contact cases. Now, I'll tell you, I've had a couple of high strangeness incidents in my own life, and I'm not sure if it's probably because because of my mom, my family history. We see that UFO contact seems to run in families. It runs in bloodlines. We see it all the time. For instance, if you talk with Kathleen Martin, that whole family, there's a history of UFO encounters, not just Betty and Barney Hill.
Yeah.
And I think that perhaps that family origin that it causes an interest in our visitors about that family, and they keep tracking them. Might even explain the implant thing that we see in certain people, and they want to know about these families.
But what do you
seems
think
like there's an interest
are for? Because we've heard very theories on that one. What do you think?
I think that that they're afraid we're going to destroy ourselves, and that we're going to destroy our beautiful planet.
So why?
And I think they're we see a lot of incidents of contact in military families, and oftentimes with the military personnel themselves. There are three messages that experiencers are left with when there's telepathic communication between a being and an experiencer. We hear the same three messages over and over again. It doesn't matter about the person's background. It doesn't matter if the person thinks that it's malevolent or benevolent, their encounter. It doesn't matter their political stripe, none of that. Religious background, doesn't matter. Three things. And people seem to take it to heart when they hear it. That when you have that telepathic communication, it's almost like imprinting, like you see in flocks of birds and things like that. Seems to stick with people, and maybe that's one of the main things that they're trying to achieve with us. Because all you have to do is turn on the news, and you're going to see the most violent species that we know about.
They're terrible.
We're very, very worried about alien invasion, but so far no aliens have invaded us. I mean, they've been here at least since 1947, when the Roswell crash happened, Kenneth Arnold sighting happened. But still, we are the ones threatening each other.
People have implants. So you have interviewed people and investigated people who have implants in their body. Our question to you is, what's the purpose of the implants? Because some people say it's tracking. Other people say, no, that's not it. They found them without the implant. They could find them again. It's some people, I know Daryl Sims, he's saying, no, it's because they want to influence the way you think. What is your experience with implants? What do you think they're for?
Well, as far as I know, I don't have one myself. I have had a face-to-face encounter, and it was scary. I mean, they took blood from me, and they took energy, and it was it happened 3 nights over a week. My wife was next 2 nights later. She thought I'd gone insane and had a mental break or something, and then 2 nights later, she's shaken me. The room is still flooded with light, and it's like you need to tell your little friends to leave us alone. I didn't sign up for this, right? And the third night, it was our room. We both woke up. Our room was flooded with light, and it was also coming from outside. It was an external light as well. The other 2 times, it was light with no source, which is scientifically impossible. But it was as though the room itself lit up, and you become calm, and then you realize you're paralyzed, and that's when they come through the wall. At least that's the way they came to me. But the third night, it was like God's own spotlight was on our backyard, and I wasn't going to run outside to see what it was coming from. It was over the roof, and it was a 2-story house in Burbank, so it wasn't rural, and neighbors' porch lights were turning on. And my wife is on the other side of the window. I'm on this side of the window. And we look at each other, and we're looking at this spotlight shining down on the backyard. And I mean, it was like laser bright. You could, everything, it made everything look black and white, like shadow or just bright light. It was that bright. And we both heard a telepathic communication at the same time. And it was a lie. I think maybe to calm us, but it didn't work, because it was absurd. We both heard in our head, like somebody was speaking out loud, but it wasn't out loud. Don't worry, it's just the neighbor's porch light. Oh. And Lisa and I look at each other and we're laughing. And we said out loud in unison, that's no damn porch light. That's not a porch light. We knew it was,
we've heard that
that was my first experience.
So we've heard they've done this kind of thing, influencing your mind so that you're not realizing you're in the middle of an abduction experience. We've heard the same thing happen with owls, that they try to make you think that you're looking at an owl, not an ET. So
jackrabbits, owls, deer, that we see all manner. Favorite cartoon character for children sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Teddy bears.
Yeah.
It was a gentleman we had on the show that had that experience. It was some superhero type of thing. So they don't really want us to know. And your mother was absolutely right on the money when she said the government will never tell us the truth. That is still
I agree.
Truth.
She was so right about that. And I don't know what to say about disclosure right now, because we're quite aware from everybody we've talked to that there won't be any, that it's going to be little dribs and drabs of things. But I doubt highly that it would destabilize the population like they claim. I really don't believe it.
I think that you have to look at what are the 2 things that our government is interested in about UFOs, because I can tell you what they are.
Yeah.
They're all about threat assessment and weaponization. How can we turn this into a weapon?
Yes.
And the threat assessment. Yeah. Well, the threat assessment part and to them, it's always going to be a threat, because how do you fight something that's thousands of years ahead of you? You don't.
No.
From what I've heard from people that, the few people I know that are in the alphabet groups, some of them say there is no plan to deal with it. If aliens come here, we give up, because you can't fight something that's thousands of years ahead of us. And the technology that people are seeing, it's out of our reach. Not just generationally, but we're talking multi-generations, centuries probably before, unless, you do see a bit of an acceleration. I mean, the last 200 years, we've gone from horse and buggy to supersonic jets to Elon Musk talking about Mars. So maybe that's one reason why they're coming here now, is because now suddenly we are a threat to the greater universe itself. But we don't really see any explosions on other planets, but we keep on, threatening each other with nuclear weapons.
Yes.
Again, where the nuclear clock is like 3 minutes to 12, or maybe closer than that right now. It's almost as bad as during the Cuban Missile Crisis right now.
It's true.
And I honestly believe, I think they're afraid that we're going to destroy ourselves and destroy the world. And I think our world is precious. People hear the three things, and I was going to mention that, and I almost forgot, but I think it's important that what experiencers are told. Number one, they're told nuclear war is evil. War is evil in itself. We don't understand why you do this to each other. But nuclear war is unsurvivable. Don't try it. Okay, that's number one. And everybody is told this. Soldiers are taken up into low Earth orbit, sometimes to a craft, sometimes they're just protected somehow, shielded, and shown the world blowing up with nukes. I've heard this from a few different soldiers. One guy was on an aircraft carrier between Japan and the Philippines on his 21st birthday, and they took him up through the deck, and he cried, and he said, "How can we stop this?" And he said that he felt like the greatest love surrounding him that he had ever felt. Another guy, a Marine at Camp Pendleton out here, taken through the barracks roof, taken up to low Earth orbit. They were pretty aggressive with him because he was very aggressive with them at first. He was thinking like a warrior, and how can I kill these guys?
Yeah.
And again, he was given, shown the threats, and the threat wasn't coming from them. It's, you are going to destroy yourselves.
Scary.
We are afraid that you are going to destroy yourselves. So that's number one, is the nuclear thing. Number two is stop treating your world like it's disposable. And I'll bring up Elon Musk again and Mars and all that. I was just reading a paper last night. Some scientist was saying, I hope we don't get to Mars. We need to fix this world up. Why do you want to go there? We'll just trash that and destroy
Scary,
that.
but true.
Nuclear weapons there. It'd probably, wage war on us eventually, and you would have War of the Worlds, right? But number three is the one that gives me hope. Number three that seems like everybody is left with is better yourself. This is a race. Raise your vibration. Raise your vibration. We hear that a lot. Some people have to look it up. I did. What does that mean? I have to I don't want to have shakiness in my hands. What does that mean? Raise your vibration. But it's about living on something higher than the meat level, being spiritual and caring about each other, empathy. And I think that's we're at a nexus point.
I love those. I love those messages. They're valid. But here's my concern, and PK and I have talked about this. Why are a lot of these ETs coming and working with the government that is wanting to weaponize everything they can get their hands on? They are not interested in anything but that. I agree with you completely. But why don't they work more with the people? There are certain people who've been blessed to have communication that's ongoing with ETs.
Mm-hmm.
They are few and far between, unless they're maybe just not telling us because they're afraid of the government and the shadow government and whomever else is involved with keeping
Mm-hmm.
from the public. But why not work more with the people? That's our question. Why keep going back to
I
the
think they
government
are.
to them?
I don't know. This is my feeling on that. When you have free will, you've got bad actors. It just unfortunately is a part of free will. You'll have your, in our world, the only intelligence that we can really truly study right now is ourselves, right? I mean, dolphins, whales, I think there's other intelligences, but this is the one that we see in we're the apex here, apex predator actually on the planet. And I think that you have your Gandhis and you have your Hitlers. You've got your saints, and then once in a while something will twist in a person, and you've got a person that's actually evil. I think that there's probably, and this is what Kathleen Marden told me too, because my entities were very, very aggressive with me up front. Now later on, I started noticing these gifts and heightened empathy, and telepathy seemed to happen to me. Synchronicities happen in my life, where it's like miracles or just miraculous coincidences that seem scripted almost. And that didn't happen before I'd had my face-to-face. In some ways, I think maybe they were trying to shake me up. If you become a Buddhist priest, one of the first rituals they'll put the acolyte through is they'll have him get on his knees, and the priest will hit him in the back with the blunt end of the sword. And it's scary. It looks like he's going to behead you, but it's to shock you and to wake you up and to make you realize that this isn't, the movie E.T. or, the movie Paul or what, the way that we look at this. I think that we're projecting our faults on the ET's motives when you look at everything. Now, are some ETs working with the government? I don't know. Maybe. Who told us this, though? I mean, I know that the government would like us to think that they're in league with the ETs, probably. They would like people to think that they're more powerful than they are. And I think that we have technologies. I think that they've got technologies that are at least 50, 60, maybe more years ahead of what we know. Some of those, people have seen. I mean, the black triangles, I've, heard on good word from a few people in aerospace that those are indeed our own vehicles, that we've kind of learned how to use gravity, but it does confuse me. But I think that there's maybe some bad actors out there, but I don't think that that's the main thing that's happening. Most of the people that I know, even though they may suffer from ontological shock, which is like PTSD, after they've had their encounter, a lot of these people wind up, most of these people, in fact, when we did our blind study with Edgar Mitchell's group, I think it was 8,000 people that were involved in this. It was a blind study. Some people were experiencers. Some people were just Joe Public, to compare their lives and compare their feelings. And what we found is that whether the person felt like their encounter was a good encounter or a bad one, 70% of the people said that if they could go and change it and make it so it had never happened, that they wouldn't change it, that it was more important to them. And it seemed to make them into a better person that they had the ET contact that they had. And that's what I would say. I was scared to death. I was sending out messages while meditating, right? I was very naive. This is 9 years ago. I want to meet you guys. I want to meet you guys. You can abduct me if that's the price of the ticket, Well, I think they took me up on it, but I think they wanted to shake me up because I was flip about it, But everybody that has contact, they all wind up noticing that their empathy seems to be greater. They seem to be better humans. And again, we've never been threatened with nuclear annihilation by aliens, but Russia, China, America, Iran. Yeah. North Korea. Yes. Those are the guys that threaten devastation.
Yeah.
So that's what I kind of have to go by.
Now, what
Are
about
they all good? I don't think.
Yeah,
so.
well, I would think there's good and bad in everything, and why would this be any different?
Yeah, there's bad actors everywhere. It's free will,
But here's the thing, you've talked over You've talked over 1,000 experiencers, and so my question to you earlier,
probably around 300 experiencer cases, and the rest are like mostly straight UFO cases, sighting reports.
And
but
so
probably around 350 experiencer cases under my belt.
Did you find that most of them maintained telepathic contact with the ETs after their experience?
That's a good question. Some people, yes. For the ones where it was something that scared them and they weren't able to get past ontological shock, usually no. But for those that kind of got past that speed bump of ontological shock, and everybody has that. I mean, when this happens to you, even a close encounter with a craft, it pulls the rug out from under you.
Yeah,
you have to throw away your old concepts. It changes everything.
Mm-hmm. It does.
But anyway, that's my feeling.
Mm-hmm. So some maintain, some do not, and that makes sense. We had Carl Higdon.
My colleague Sev Talk. I mean, she's been in touch for years and years since she was a child. It was almost like a classroom setting for her. And I hear this from other people too. Some people, they're taken usually by the tall whites or the Nordics. Seems to start in childhood, and they can actually have children in a classroom setting, which is strange. But when you hear something over and over again from intelligent people that aren't in contact with each other, you have to figure there's something there. That there's there.
Right. There's something there. Carl Higdon was on our show years ago. Fortunately, he's passed away, but he was a Wyoming hunter who had quite an experience. And one of the things that surprised us was that he was still in touch with the being that he met out there on the land that took him. And he also had pain in his shoulder, which was their fault because they dumped him out of the bottom of the spaceship and he fell down some kind of cliff and really hurt.
You should ask him to heal it. They heal people.
He did.
I mean, Kathleen Martin was healed of something that happened to her during an abduction, actually. And she asked them to fix it and they did.
They did.
So tell next time you talk, well, I guess when you're saying he had passed away, I was going to say, if he's still with us,
it's a little late.
Just tell him, ask him to heal you.
He did, and it was something he did ask for, and they did do it. So when he was in a lot of pain, he would ask, and then this being would come and take care of it for him. But he died a couple of years ago. He was quite something. He was quite something, and his wife Marjorie, just incredible people. But there is so much to be gained for the most part. And like you said, if you can get past your fear, then you can have these long-term relationships or learn other things about yourself and life and what all this means. But getting past the fear isn't the easiest, is it?
No, it's difficult, but it's you can do it.
Yeah.
I think they're telling that we're going to the 30-second thing there. Time goes by fast when you're having fun. Thank you for having me on, you guys.
That was wonderful.
Oh, God. Earl, you're the best. Thank you so much.
It's been great.
Pleasure.
Great.
Thank you.
Absolute pleasure.
You guys
enjoyed it very, very much.
Yes.
You too.
Me too.
Care.
So we'll be back next week, everybody, with another great show. Until then, we'll see you on the Blue Highway. Good night, everyone.
Good night.